Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, RFK Refugees Podcast. Ted here, John here. I had actual music in my ears. Excellent work, producer Brian. Before we had to just wait for him to cue us in. So that's pretty cool. And we're actually going to be able to hear the music. We don't have to watch the clips ahead of time. Excellent work by our producer. John, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. You're letting everyone know about the sausage making here behind the scenes. This is That's exclusive content for Patreons only to know our AV hookups.
Hey, we give all our fans the behind the scenes. I always love to comment on that, and I like to give our producer Brian his chops because he has certainly made this show much bigger than it was just John and I trying to fumble our way through a live stream. We should do Melissa is doing all these throwback kits. We should do a throwback show where we
have bad audio and only one scene. Yeah, I think we should do that. It'd be great.
Anyway, man, how's it been? How's your weekend been? How you been doing?
It's been good. We were talking about the show. We were putting together the rundown for the show last night, and realized this only might be like a 25-minute, 30-minute show because there's nothing really to talk about until Thursday. So I don't know. This might be a short show. It's hard to say.
Yeah, nothing really happened.
Nothing broke today anywhere.
Yeah, nothing big except one small little thing.
Mm-hmm.
We have a new TV partner.
Is it Flow Sports?
It is Flow Sports. The return
awesome.
No, kidding. Of course, I'm kidding. It's a joke. Everybody laugh.
It's not Flow Sports.
It is not Flow Sports, thankfully. DC United have announced a partnership with NBC Sports Washington and Teleitos. I'm assuming that
sounds right.
It's Telemundo's multicast network. A couple of big things about this. First of all, DC United is returning to NBC Sports Washington, which I think fans have been asking for a while now. Probably since they went off NBC Sports Washington in 2016. People have wanted this. They are still going to do free live streams to people inside the little bubble, which I don't think I'm a part of. But you know what? It's okay because I have cable. I can now watch the game on TV. I don't have to be 30 seconds behind and have people be tweeting out things that are happening in games before I see them. So I'm very happy about that.
It'll make your live tweeting much, much better to be on actual cable.
Oh, yes, absolutely. But this is a big deal. I think let's break this down into two fronts. Let's talk about what it means to be back on, I guess, regular cable, even if it is, I mean, let's be serious. If there is a Capitals game or there is a Wizards game, these are getting bumped to the Plus channel. I thought the wording was interesting.
If there's a Wizards game, a Capitals game, or a Redskins preseason game, or Washington football team game, or a replay of a preseason Washington football team game,
maybe even a Spirit game. I don't know. Who knows? Possibly
the bottom of the pecking order for sure.
Yeah, definitely the bottom of the pecking order. I think this is more of an admission, and I know that it's completely different business operations back in 2016. I think this is an admission that DC United needs Comcast, or sorry, I said Comcast. It used to be Comcast.
It needs HDS.
it needs NBC Sports Washington more than NBC Sports Washington needs DC. And I think this is a move that sort of brings back fans. It is what fans have wanted, which is to have these games. Now, when you go to a bar, you don't have to hope they have a ESPN Plus stick or hope that, they carry News Channel. I say, I want to turn on News Channel 8.
You just made me remember the sticks. You made me remember the Flow Sports sticks that DC United team members had to go around to partner bars and buy enough sticks for every TV in the bar because you can't split the feed from. Oh God, I forgot all about that whole
nightmare. It's all over. It's all over. The healing is happening right now.
If only we had terrestrial video when Wayne Rooney was here. Yeah, that was of course the biggest miss of all time. However, the whole idea is you have to have casual fans. I don't know how much in the old days, flipping through the channels happened. You were just flipping and game. No one flips. No one's, unless you're a very old person, you're not just hitting channel up on your remote control. You know where you're going. You're going to the guide. You're watching on TiVo. You're doing whatever you're doing. However, all that aside, it's great to have it in public spaces as more people are actually coming into public spaces. It's great to be able to set it on your own DVR and not have to worry about there's a streaming option that you can watch later. Maybe podcasters who have to watch games multiple times be able to speak about it coherently will appreciate that element to it. And also, the big thing that I don't think will happen, it would be great if it does happen, but I won't hold my breath. Is that a long time ago when they were on Comcast Sportsnet and NBC, before they were NBC Sports Washington, there was a DC United television show on the weekends, which was cool. Dave Johnson hosted that. It was like every other week, I think. And also they'll get coverage on the I don't know what they call it anymore. It used to be CSN Sports Night. I don't know what they call it, but that sort of like accidental exposure to the fact that DC United exists and is playing is what you want. That's how you're going to capture the attention of the sports fan, but sort of like passive soccer fan. So it's great. It's great news.
Yeah, and having that buy-in, NBC is going to have to put somebody, whether it's an intern or somebody's going to have to write, news stories covering the team. It's going to show up on their Twitter feed. I think you get exposure from that. You're going to get, I think at the end of the day, I think at the very least, you have given fans what they wanted, which was normal TV coverage that they can go to a bar in DC and say, hey, can you tune into NBC Sports Washington? They don't have to
say, what's that?
They don't have to jump through hoops, watch on their phone, open their tablet, none of that nonsense. They all probably know what NBC Sports Washington Plus is, which is probably where the home opener is going to end up, because I believe I checked it. There is it's either a Capitals or Wizards game. I can't remember.
I think the days where that was an issue about being on most cable things are done. I remember when that was a first concern. That was CSN Plus or NBC Sports Washington Plus was not on most cable packages. So now I think that's going to be pretty standard. If you have CSN, you probably have CSN Plus.
Yeah, I know there's some people here who said, I have it on YouTube TV. I have NBC Sports Washington on YouTube TV. And I said, do you have the Plus channel? Because that's where most of the content's going to get kind of shoveled to because of other contract negotiations between sports that are just frankly more popular. Even though the Wizards have been bad for years, they still probably pull better ratings than DC.
I think that's probably true.
Yes.
Gilbert Arenas, I think they've been bad since Gilbert Arenas. However, still probably double or triple the anemic ratings for DC United. Maybe they'll get better. The hope is they'll get better. Mark Rickling points out that terms not disclosed equals team is still paying for part of the production cost for televising games. Money well spent, in my opinion. Absolutely, it is. It's cheaper probably than whatever cost they would have to get to have that many people see DC United games or just know that DC United exists. So it's money well spent. And the hardcore fans, since the season started, we can all now, I guess, get over the preseason thing. It was stupid. It was dumb, but now the real games are happening and we'll be able to watch them on TV. So anyway, good day for DC United and good day for DC United fans on the TV side.
Part two about this part two. There's part two and part three. Part two is the games will be still, which I think is a bigger part of the story as well, is that you can still watch it if you don't have cable. If you cut the cord, you can still watch it on the team's website. I think this has been a nature of rights splitting, I guess is the right way to term it. Like teams are splitting up their digital rights versus their TV rights. And then of course the other news, which I think actually is potentially more significant, is that there's going to be Spanish language broadcast of the game. That is something that the team has sorely missed. I hope we see maybe a return in the stadium. I have to go back but I seem to remember Audi Field. There was no, as great as the guy who does the PA, it would be nice. You like to have that Spanish language as well. And that's something DC had for a while. Yeah. And they've lost it. So that's all good things to see.
I was talking to someone today about that particular news. And their question for me was, how many Spanish speaking people in this country care about MLS or care about DC United? And I said, well, certainly less than would have if they had kept the Spanish language rights for DC United over the last 10 years. I think that's a big ball dropped, and the one they're picking up now. So they'll pay. I think they'll pay for that shortage. I think that they'll see those numbers not be as good as they hope because they've left them off so long. But I think it's something that had to be done. And Douglas talking about the OG PA announcer that did it in Spanish. I remember at RFK. And I remember that every time I brought a friend to RFK for the first time and they did that, they were like, it's like when they yell goal on TV really long. I was like, it is like that. It is like that. Do you like it?
Easy. Yeah. All that.
Yeah, I miss it. It's good.
I miss it too. Yeah.
And now this is something it's good. It's an overall good thing. In a day of a whole bunch of good things that we're going to get to, this was the first one. Was this the first one?
This was the first one.
Okay, we're going through the day. We're giving you a show that is proceeding along. It's like 24. where this is the episode where we're getting this is our 1 to 2 o'clock, I think.
Yeah, and it's all good things. I will say it does say up to 33 DC United matches. That seems very clear. I could see if there's a Wizards and Capitals conflict, which could happen. Maybe this game gets bumped entirely, which is why I think they're having sort of the backup. Hey, it's going to be watched on the website, and then hopefully they unblock it for people like me who live outside of that radius. I hope that happens. But for right now, all good things. They're all listed on the schedule as being on there. So
Ted will have to drive to someone's house in Washington, D.C. So we're now accepting borders. Ted will.
Oh, I'm just going to drive to your house, John. Are you kidding me?
I don't think I'm in the circle. Am I in the circle?
You're in the circle, man.
Just a quick note before we move on. If you are a listener to the show, you're either watching live or listening to the podcast on Tuesday. If you wanted to tweet at NBCS Washington or to NBC, what's the account for the DC United specific one? I want to make sure I get it right. At NBCS DC United and ask them what their plans are for podcasts for the year. I wouldn't be upset about it. I think that there are certain podcasts out here that are unaffiliated with major network news that would be open to partnerships. So, if you wanted to bother them, don't harass them. But if you want to just give them an idea, I think that's okay. We'll support that.
Yeah, we'll definitely support that.
Sure.
Moving on to the next big news story of the day. DC United has hired Lucy Rushton from Atlanta to be the general manager. She is apparently going to be, I guess it's unclear. We don't know exactly what her exact, what her role is going to be. Like, is Casper stepping away? I think we're all still wondering with that. Apparently she will report to Casper. An interesting Casper has been a part of the team for a long time. I even found it a little funny when Stephen Goff said winner of one MLS Cup. And I'm like, it's been that long, like 2004, like he was the general manager or general manager part of the team. I guess so. But they took her away from, they took Lucy away from Atlanta, where
a week before the season started.
Yes, a week before the season started, as Atlanta's head of video and technical analyst for 5 years. So basically, and the team apparently also tried to hire her. They also had interviewed. It seemed like maybe this seems to me like maybe this is a situation where Casper is either being promoted while also sort of being stepping away. Taken away from the day-to-day operations of the club. He may still have some approval, big transfers. He might need to have some sort of approval. I think this is significant for two reasons. Number one, she is the second woman to serve as a GM. As Goff points out, the first one for San Jose, which I'm trying to see if I had.
You didn't.
Nope, I missed it. But apparently more business.
Early on, it was like 97, 98.
Yeah. It was 99.
She was more in charge of sort of the business side rather than player acquisition and roster building. So this is the first woman who's conceivably in charge of player personnel, roster building, etc., contracts.
Which is the way it was with a lot of MLS teams back then. The coach was basically also the technical director, in charge of scouting, in charge of everything, and everybody else kind of ran more the business side of things. But apparently she's going to bring a lot of analytics. She did a lot of that with Atlanta. So this is all very exciting. I think this is. I remember. I think it was they were talking with Sebi Salazar, and they were talking about a couple years ago. They talking about who. They can't really fire Ben Olsen. They can't really get rid of Ben Olsen because if you just completely remove Ben, then you just have Dave Casper as the only soccer person and a few assistant coaches. So the soccer side has always been something DC has lacked. You had people doing multiple jobs, doing multiple things. This seems to be an indication that those days are changing. I think even you had Roach on the show earlier, and he actually seemed more pumped about this move than the NBC Sports Washington move, because I think it does give a sense that this team is growing up kind of with the league and starting to act like a professional outlet. And I am excited about this. I wanted DC when they were looking for a coach. I wanted them to go out and find an outside voice because I think this team needed an outside voice. I wanted someone to come in who had different ideas. And I think this also does that. And this was unexpected, which makes it even more amazing. We were not expecting this move a week before the season or any time during the season. So I think having an outside voice, someone with a different perspective, different ideas, is only a good thing. Even if it doesn't work out, it's only a good thing to get a fresh pair of eyes on the team. We'll talk a little bit about what the new coach thinks about the team later, but I've said a lot, but John, you, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think first was Yamil, then was Julian, now is Lucy. We like to fleece or at least raid Atlanta United right before season start. Now it's the third time. I think there's a lot to learn about this still. I think we're in the very early days as far as what the division of labor looks like, what her job still consists of. What we do know is this is a promotion for her from her job at Atlanta United. This is a pretty big step up from doing sort of scouting and video work, analytics. I think it says what the team values right now. I think that there's a big trend. We've talked about this with Charlie Boehm in his article about Vancouver. There's a big trend towards teams trying to maximize their capabilities with analytics, both from roster construction, but also identifying players that fit the bill for lower cost than they might have had to pay otherwise. I think that's good. The question for me is she and Dave Casper given capital to go and hire more scouts? I think my question is Lucy being given this job? Is she basically a scout / general manager? A lot of her work has been at previous job when she was, I believe, at Reading,
scout
at Watford, and she was at the head of technical scouting in Reading. Different skill set necessarily than roster construction. Is she going to be out sort of building that shopping list, working with Hernan to find those players, decide whether or not they're going to be a fit? That's a general manager's job, I think, in general. But I think that also traditionally Dave's been about contracts. He's been about knowing league rules. He's been about having great relationships within the league to be able to make trades. So I'll be very interested to see what his new job looks like, Casper's new job looked like as president of soccer operations, and how much resources Lucy's given to build out a full scouting department so that she's able to concentrate on the rest of those things, or is she going to be doing those same skills that she was doing in other places while Dave still has his hands on contracts? He has his hands on sort of the same things that he's had before. It's an open question. I think either way, it's about bringing in new talent and a new lens and new skill sets that they didn't have before. It remains to be seen until the team talks about it, until we have sort of media availability on the two of them, what the real change is going to be from the Casper's perspective.
Yeah, and I guess that's sort of what I'm getting at, is that this is committing resources. You are essentially bringing someone in, paying them a salary that you otherwise maybe were just putting on one person. So I think that is enough, and it does help, to have multiple. If you have an opinion on players, it helps to have multiple opinions. When Nick DeLeon was drafted in 2012, Kevin Payne was from all reports was a big critic. You had other voices saying, nope, he's a good player, we should get him. You get him. And so having those multiple voices, having multiple opinions helps things. And instead of just having one guy who is making the decisions, who's doing the scouting and doing everything, it opens up in that regard. I agree with you about the resources. I hope she's provided the resources. I think you don't make this type of move unless you are planning on expanding.
Right, because she's stepping up. This is a new job for her, so you have to put her in a position to succeed and not just throw her in the deep end of the pool and hope she swims. Stuart Mayer is obviously still with DC United. He's the technical director, is his title now. Stuart has been a part of putting the Loudoun United roster together, putting the DC United roster together. So I think what we've done here is add an extra brain to the brain trust that puts these teams together. I don't think if people are looking for the Dave Casper fingerprints to get off this team, because he has only had one MLS Cup, one Supporters Shield, and one U.S. Open Cup in his since 2002. I think you will be disappointed. I think he's still going to have some say. He is still going to be Dave Casper, run enterprise. I think that we're just going to have more voices and more ideas that weren't there before, and we've got a lot of people chime in on that. Kevin Hernandez agreeing with both of us. Curious to see if she's given more or the same resources she had in Atlanta. It'll be a challenge because of Atlanta's budget, but it's entirely possible. And B Bass Goal says would love to see her expand the scouting analytics department that report to her and not just doing her old job with the new title. Yeah, I think that's the best outcome for the team and for her.
I don't think you you take this job unless you're guaranteed some sort of expanded role or you have a good understanding of what your role is going to be.
Sure. Sure.
So, I mean, I think it'll be fun. It is a fun time right now at this club to see this team going out and doing things like this. We don't know what the results are going to be. We don't know if this leads to success, but at the meantime, it's certainly fun to see. This was going to lead the show. This is how crazy things got. Moving on to preseason. Talk about overcompensating, by the way. No stream for the last preseason game. Everybody angry, everybody upset. So what does DC do on Monday? Oh, let's just give them what they want. Give them everything. Let's do everything.
Before we move on, there apparently is going to be one more thing tomorrow that's really what people want. I'm not going to get into what it is, but based on the tease from Pablo's live chat today from The Athletic, I think there's a lot of people who have been clamoring for something that might get it tomorrow. And I don't want to step on his reporting, but tomorrow, read The Athletic. Read Pablo's Twitter account. I think there's some more good news coming. I'm not gonna break it.
You're not gonna break it.
Just pay attention.
You're not even gonna say a hunch of what it is, or
I have a very good idea what it is. It's what have people been asking for in the Facebook and Instagram feeds of DC United for the last week, nonstop.
I'm guessing the cherry blossom jersey, but maybe. Yeah, that seems like a pretty good guess. Preseason. Let's get to the game. DC United 1-1 draw with New York Red Bulls. Let's all close our eyes and imagine what the game was like. Eric Sorga scored a goal, so he has taken the reins from Nick Leone as a Red Bull killer with his goal. He is 1-1 draw. Apparently there was a penalty. I not much we can really by trialist. Yes. So I'm giving away by
he's cut. That guy's now cut. He gave up a penalty, and so sorry.
Well, that guy cut, I think, is the guy that they're looking to sign. Apparently,
well, then hopefully it wasn't him.
I think it was
speaking him. Speaking of Eric Sorga, I think this probably fits in now better than anywhere else. Steve Goff apparently, while we were having this podcast, tweeted that Eric Sorga may start the game on Saturday over Ola Kamara. Wow, I think there's lots of people on Twitter that are going to be really juiced for this, and also it screws up my very specific DC United.
Give it anyway.
DC United prediction, but
we have one very specific prediction from a fan dealing with that. So I think he'll be. I won't say who he is. I'll tell him on the show, but I think he's pumping his fist at that.
How about that? That's wild. Yeah. But we can't say anything about the game because, again, as we've said. Sorry, my dog wants to be on the podcast.
It's Pod Dog. It's okay.
Pod Dog's saying what's up, wants to go outside. Sorry, bud. So we continue to not know anything about these games. We're going in so cold to the game on Saturday as far as how this team is going to perform. But it's over now. Good. Now we can now the games that matter start Saturday. And the coach who we had a chance to speak to last week. Has a lot of thoughts about how well his team has performed so far in the preseason.
It was great. There's still a lot of work to do, but I have to say that I didn't expect this progression after 5 weeks of preseason, not only on the field with our style of play, but also condition. Condition has to be much better. We still have a long way to go. I don't believe that from the physical point of view, we will be ready for the 17th of April. But we improved a lot comparing with where we're coming from. It has been a long break. Many players didn't came back on the right way, in the right conditions, and we knew it would take some time to get all the players fit and to start playing the way we want. But at least I have to say we don't have too many extra injuries. Most of the injuries right now are injuries from the past. The group is fit, and like you say, some new guys still have to join. So it can be, we can only get better. And I'm satisfied with all the steps we made the last 5 weeks.
So that was that was in the press conference last week with in front of DC United media. And that was a issue that he came back to numerous times throughout the interview. It was not sort of like it feels very much like he walked in to that press conference with that to talk about. Like he was gonna drive that home, and he brought it up in 3 or 4 more questions. So What do we think about the very candid and honest assessment by the new head coach?
Yeah, I've been thinking, like, I guess now we're getting into games. So now it's the ultimate time. I'm comparing what we just heard to what we got from Ben Olsen.
Yeah, that's a good point.
With what we got, and what would Ben Olsen, if Ben Olsen walks into training and first day and he sees, the fitness level is not there for his team, what do you think he does? He develops a roster, he puts a starting lineup out there, and he says, all right, we're going to play a very conservative way because we're not fit yet. And then maybe eventually we'll work our way into something. And then eventually it becomes the way we play. This seems to be Losada sort of saying, no, guys aren't fit. Well, guess what? We're going to work and we're going to make them fit. We're going to run sprints. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And we're going to make sure that we are a fit team, because the way I want to play is non-negotiable. I want to instill this style on my team. And we are seeing this team. I remember it was talked about, everybody was saying, oh, this team isn't set up to play three at the back. I think that's driving one of the potential center back signings, the fact that they have a player hurt. They're looking for some cover. I think we're going to see this team every preseason game. This team has rolled out three in the back, a 4-man midfield, and then, a withdrawn forward and then a starting forward. So I think at this point, that's what I'm going to expect to see on the 17th. I think we have seen him talk about how, don't read too much into how I played. We're seeing him basically throw out what he was playing at beer shot. So this is a guy I think that wants a way to play. And this is a very different sort of feeling than what we got from Ben Olsen.
Yeah, undoubtedly. I do want to see what his tone is like after this team loses a couple games. Mm-hmm. If this team loses a couple games, but when inevitably at some point when some bad runs go, he seems like a guy who is going to speak his mind on it. And if there's players that aren't performing, I don't think there's going to be I don't necessarily think that he's going to be characterized as a player's coach the way Ben Olsen was always, which will help you keep a locker room together for a long time, but it will not necessarily help you win. It will not necessarily give you results. So that'll be something to watch as he develops. He seems very much like a guy who has an idea of what's going to happen. He understands the player because he was one not that long ago, but I don't think he's going to give players a lot of latitude to do things the way they want to do things.
I said at one point, I think, there are players that will respond to this. They'll get up for it. And it's even caused me to think, we've talked about, I remember you wrote an article for your old blog that you had about the amount of failures DC United had with signing international players. It made me think, I'm like, I wonder how much of that was, Marcus Halsey coming into this team and being like, what the heck is these guys, these players aren't fit. No one's trying. No one's really we got a coach that doesn't seem to care or doesn't seem as invested as I'm used to in Europe. And it makes you kind of wonder. It makes you kind of think like maybe this is what this team has been missing. Somebody who comes in with that type of attitude. I'll be very curious. I'll be very curious to see how this develops over the season, how the team looks on opening day. I think we're going to get a good indication of now it counts. Now it's for real. Preseason's over. Again, we watched a little bit of preseason. We saw some good things. So, but that's kind of one of the things I had in my head. I'm like, we had a lot of European international players fail. I wonder how much of that was maybe they get here and it's like you have a player's coach, which is fine, but no one, it seems like it's not what you want. You want to play at the highest level and you're used to sort of playing at sort of a high level and to come here, it seems a little different. So, and
it makes you think of Wayne Rooney instantly.
Yeah.
We'll never know. That'll be a long-term oral history potentially, but
yeah.
Moving on. We've got some DC United roster updates in a day of 5 million things that are going on. For the old heads, it appears that DC United remains in negotiations with Andy Nahar. There was a report out of Honduran media this week that he passed his medical. So Andy was being held out of many of these games. As far as we know, the minutes tracker that Black and Red United had him very low on minutes. And the idea was potentially that they saw what they needed to see, but they wanted to keep him healthy and make sure that he could make it all the way through his medical. Seems like he did that. I would imagine he gets signed. I can't imagine there being a huge gulf between the sides on money unless DC United really wants to lowball him because he's not worth as much as he was in the past. But also we're looking at signing Tony Alfaro, a left-footed center back who has been on trial, former Seattle Sounder, but most recently played with Reno in the USL Championship. So sorry, my dog is rolling around. With Steven Birnbaum out until June, and then also taking some time to get back up to speed, because at that point he will have been out for months and months and months and months. There's more cover. So I think you alluded to it, like that says that, all right, well, he's not just going to ditch it and get to a 4-man backline because he's short guys. I think he's willing to take the growing pains in order to put his stamp on the team and figure out the system that he wants to play in the long term.
And maybe maybe there was a discussion between him and Dave, and maybe once he said, maybe Dave was like, look, I don't care about how, maybe he got here being like, oh, I need to make sure I'm getting results. Cause maybe, I don't want to get fired. And then Dave said, you know what? I don't care about that right now. Let's get a style. Let's get something into this team. And maybe that's what's sort of driving it. We probably will never know, but
nope.
But certainly something to keep an eye on this year. All right. So we're promised we're going to get to, we had a team in the area that actually did play games, and we should definitely talk about them. We should not forget, we've had a lot of DC related content that we really couldn't ignore. But we had an actual game. We had the first, a game that counts ? It's a preseason tournament, but it's not really the whole regular season. The first game of the Challenge Cup, the NWSL Challenge Cup, is kicked off. DC had their first game against New York, NC Courage. Sorry, I am like falling apart on the show right now. 3-2 loss. They opened up with a goal from Yokoyama, and it was a struggle from there on for this team. They then fell behind 3-1 heading into the break, and then there was a very, very nice ball from Jacobs over the top to Trinity Rodman, who becomes, I think they said, the youngest player to score in NWSL. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, that is correct.
She's the youngest player to score. So great for her to open her account. Looked like a consonant pro taking that off the bounce. So very, very exciting. So a loss, but you have to feel, you're missing Kelly O'Hara, you're missing Andy Sullivan, you're missing a lot of players. Bailey Feist. Bailey Feist went off with an ACL injury in the Gotham FC friendly. Great. We haven't talked about like great rebrand, great name change, great everything. NWSL is killing MLS when it comes to kit design, logo design, literally dragging us back from the abyss of lameness.
Just to loop back on the Challenge Cup game a little bit. For those of you who are watching it, the backline was being bullied around, and I think that there's a lot to do with a new system in play. There's a lot to do with, as Ted referred to, 2 of your starting backline being in, I think, Norway or Sweden, playing with the national team.
Sweden. So
I think that there is, similar to what we just talked about with Hernan, about trying to figure out how to establish the system you want and put up with results that aren't necessarily what you would like to have in order to get better. This is preseason. It's a tournament, but it's preseason. So there's certainly, I think the forwards look very dangerous. I think the midfield, if you looked at that starting midfield, it's not the one that you're going to want to see roll out there when the real season starts. Bailey Feist, the ACL injury that she suffered is massive to this team. I think she was my player of the year pick for this year. She was Jason Anderson's pick for the year. She had a fantastic Challenge Cup last year in 2020. She took up for Rose's continued absence when she was actually still there, and sort of playing a similar style of play in the middle of the field, being the creative box to box type player that I don't think the team has another one of right off the bat that can plug right in. That will be a challenge. That'll be interesting to me to see what they do, particularly when everyone is back in camp and we're playing real games that count. But it's tough to have your first game against North Carolina, no matter what, even though I talked about in numerous interviews that maybe they're not so great anymore. But they look like they could finish. And there was apparently the Spirit had more expected goals, but from my multiple viewings of the game, there looked to be about 8 or 9 squandered chances inside the 18-yard box for North Carolina that they're usually going to convert. So that game could have turned a whole bunch of different ways. But luckily, they stayed close for goal differential if it matters for the Challenge Cup. So the next game is this Thursday at Audi Field against Racing Louisville, who the game is not open to the fans. But Louisville had their first game as a club, as an expansion team, with a 2-2 draw against Orlando Pride. They of the amazing jerseys and amazing moon goalie jersey for Ashlyn Harris. I imagine we're going to see another similar setup. We're probably going to see the same formation again, so same three in the back. Probably a little bit of player rotation, considering they played. Was that Sunday or Saturday that they played this game against North Carolina? So they got it's a pretty quick turnaround for the preseason. They're probably going to see some changes, and I don't necessarily know which, but I think there's going to be that'll be something to watch out for. I think probably Ashley Sanchez played the whole game or most of the whole game.
She did, yeah. She struggled too. I will talk about her as one of the players. Those are the players that struggled. Jacob struggled, I think, in the midfield. Can't remember, but I know that Ashley Sanchez as well. She struggled to sort of be that creator, and really with Feist out, she sort of shifts into that role as that person who has the potential at least to sort of take up that mantle and to be that sort of creative force. But I think you're right. I think it's good that the team showed up, that they didn't back down. They didn't have 3-1. I thought it was honestly over. And then there was a great ball over to Trinity Rodman. Great for her to open her account. She looked good. She came out. I don't know if we'll see her start or we'll see her get a lot of time there. John's going to go let the dog out. And I don't know how much time we're going to see her get, but I think it's good to see that that she's out there. She got the goal. That's important. And I think overall I left that game not disappointed, not upset, hopeful that this team can start to put it together. And also Yokoyama scoring too, I think was,
very quick turn, capitalizing on a mistake by the Courage backup goalie, third string goalie, I think.
And she's someone who came into this team last year, and I don't think she had the year she would have wanted to have.
No,
in 2020. So it was good to see her get a goal in. I think all of that shows that losing Feist is big. It's not a backbreaker for this team. It's certainly a stumble, and they've got to sort of figure out who they want to be now without her out there. So, and I think we saw a little bit of that.
We got a comment we'll address this quickly in the chat from Calvin Byrne about your thoughts on the NWSL saying Segra Field isn't up to their standards. I don't necessarily know. We got into
we're on a good feelings trip, guys.
You're right. We had one of our Patreons sent us some pictures on our Discord, which I encourage you all to join, which producer Brian will put a link to in the chat. That there's still a lot of construction materials at Segra. There's lots of water pipes that have not been buried. They're going to need to get cracking on that. I think that the first game at Segra is in May, so they got a little bit of time, but it would have been nice, I would imagine, from a cost perspective, to have the Spirit playing these games at Segra instead of having a minimum capacity game. In fact, no fans at all this week, and then the next game at Audi being again diminished fan perspective. So it's bad. It's not a good look. Hopefully they get it done quickly. It's obviously been delayed. And Douglas is correcting us. Rodman is the youngest American goal scorer ever at NWSL. The youngest ever period is Ellie Carpenter from Australia. Fair enough. But we're excited about Rodman. I'm excited about Rodman. Is I wanted her to play up to the narrative that surrounded her as a young player drafted with her lineage. Mm-hmm. And I wanted her to be able to do it on her own and make the attention that she's getting be validated by her performance. Because that's the worst thing is a Freddie Adu situation or any other thing where the media decides the narrative is going to be the story for the entire year and the player is put under pressure to perform they're not ready to perform for. She's rolled out literally within 5 minutes of being on the field, has a great touch, puts it in the net. So that's what you want. That's what you want to see.
And I feel bad for her because she in news stories, and even still, I think I saw a news story that came out. She is linked to her father, and there is probably nothing that she can do about it. So I would love for her to come on, sort of write her own history, become a staple in the national team, start to make that rise up. And I hope this is sort of the beginning of that, and that she becomes that sort of moniker gets kind of dropped a little bit when people talk about her. Maybe it's sort of an afterthought in a story rather than the main headline. And right now you've seen a lot of sort of main headline, Dennis Rodman's daughter scores goal is kind of been, or youngest American to score in NWSL, and that gets dropped from her because, when she was drafted, I'm sure she probably got tired. She probably knew it was coming, but I'm sure, as somebody, you're tired of it. You're tired of being linked to that. Linked to your father and sort of the personality he was that sort of comes with that and the baggage that comes with that, even though it has no impact on who you are as a player and everything. So
other than helping her be tall, I think that might have been something to it.
Yeah. But all good news that she got the goal and that's certainly something great to see. And we'll see what happens in their next game, which I think is on Tuesday or Wednesday?
Thursday. And there's a possibility that RFK Refugees will be reporting live from Audi Field from that game. So stay tuned on that one.
Against Racing Louisville, who had a great showing in their first game against Orlando Pride. I watched a little bit of that game, last minute goal, 2-2 draw. I wasn't paying, I guess, close enough attention that I could give you, shot for shot analysis, but their jerseys look really cool. I'll say that.
+1 jerseys.
Yes, plus one on the jerseys and the stadium too. The stadium out there in Louisville is gorgeous. I hope to hit that sometime. I guess next.
If you want to talk about good feelings or lack of good feelings, I don't know if you caught the MLS. Soccer.com.
Canales are right back. Yeah, I'll take that with a huge, massive grain of salt for the rest of
the MLS Soccer.com DC United preview in which they used a graphic on the tweet that was wrong and out of date, unless Felipe is magically recovered, Bill Hamid is magically recovered, Steve Birdbaum is magically recovered, and players are playing different positions than they're likely to play. But all that aside, I think that's probably work that was done ahead of time. Here are the projected finishes by MLS Soccer's writing staff. Steve Zakuani, I won't say all of their names, but 12th in the East, 12th in the East, 12th in the East, 13th in the East, 12th in the East, 13th in the East, 10th, 13th, 12th by friend of the show, Charlie Boehm, and 9th by former DC United player, Charlie Davies. So clearly, Charlie Davies, we love you, and everyone else can suck it.
Yeah, friend of the show, Charles Boehm. I expect better from you, my friend. At least what is 9th. No, but no one has us in the playoffs. Nobody has in the playoffs, and we'll get into maybe why I am highlighting that in my very, very specific prediction, because I am not as down on the team. I mean, I think with any MLS prediction, MLS is notoriously. I'm doing a fantasy draft right now as we speak. We do a slow snail draft because we don't have time to do clocks.
Did you say as we speak? Are you doing a draft while you're podcasting? Is that what
I am not doing a draft while I am not up yet. We are. Okay. I had made my pick.
You're on the clock.
We're several times down. The people here are probably watching the show. They're probably going to mention this. I am not on the clock right now. We do a slow snail draft because we realized it was way too hard to find. So we do it like over the week, and people have as much time really as they want to pick. Don't be a jerk, but that's
they get to call timeouts like real MLS draft and like go to table to table.
Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of how it works. But
I want to see Aaron Almosada at a draft, by the way.
Oh yes.
I would love to see. I want to see team. If you're listening, if you could detail me to get me access to watch the draft table live, if such a thing exists next year, I would really love it. I think it would be a great story to watch his face as college players are drafted and people are taking timeouts and they're trading 4th round conditional, supplemental picks for players. I want to see it. I need it.
We're not gonna. We may not get it because we don't have there's no actual central location for the draft. So
unfortunate. Daniel Hill says MLS has a headline calling us one of the most unpredictable teams of 2021, which. Yeah, I think that's probably right. I think that's actually fair.
and it's again, as our producer points out, or someone points out, I'm not sure who typed it. I'm pretty sure that's our producer.
It is.
When unpredictable is a positive feeling, and I think that's what all fans are. What I'm feeling right now is like it's positive that we're unpredictable. I'm tired of the same, ordinary predictions for this team. Do you think that's leading into some of these predictions? Is everybody's like, we don't know. So if we don't know when we're predicting you, we're going to go based on what we saw last year, which was not good. So we're just going to put you at the bottom. I think
that's fair. But even when they got into the players, they were not impressed with the players. They were saying every player on this roster is either past their prime or not anywhere into form, which I thought was I think last season is unfair to judge.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
So shut up.
Yeah,
Shut up, MLSsoccer.com.
And this happened during Ben's time as well. And there's going to be teams that people predict will be the stars of the league. Everybody was calling Atlanta last year a playoff team, top of the table, everything. Oh, they were going to win the Supporters Shield again. And what happened? They absolutely fell apart.
Well, they kicked one leg of the table, and then the table fell on the ground. So
yeah, basically. Let's get into we have some predictions. I am borrowing, ripping, stealing. Whatever from the Total Soccer Show. They do a very, very specific predictions. So the goal is to be as specific as possible with predictions. We're not just going to say, first, second, third, we're not going to, pick where we think these things. We're going to give very specific predictions. So I'll start first. I wrote mine down so John can see mine. John did not write his. I hope he has some. First one I do believe DC United will make the playoffs, but we will finish with a negative goal differential. And I decided how high I wanted to go in that goal differential, and I decided that wasn't smart. So I just said negative goal differential, which happens in the league. And I think if this team's making the playoffs, it's a pretty good call. I think this team is going to give up a lot of goals. They're going to sacrifice a lot of talent. They're going to give up goals to start the game. They're going to lose some games, and then maybe they're going to get it together. So, John, what do you have?
One of mine is crushed already by the news that Steve Goff just broke, but my original one was Eric Sorga will score more goals for Loudoun United than DC United this year, and I had it at 5 goals for Loudoun. If he's starting the first game of the year and his stock is rising, which is apparently the quote, I'm gonna take the under on my prediction here.
Speaking of, I put the call out. I wanted some very specific predictions from some of our things, and Angus is now basking in the glory of this prediction. He had that Eric Sorga will get more minutes than Ola Kamara in 2021. So he right now apparently is looking like a genius. Yep. And he is completely basking in that glory of that prediction. My next prediction. Here's a good one. Here's a good one for you.
Yes, this one, I like this one.
You like this one? I say Lucho Acosta will have more goals and assists than Flores by the All-Star game. And I checked when the All-Star. We haven't heard when the All-Star game is, but I'm gonna assume July, June, somewhere in that time frame. If not, use that as my barrier. But Flores will have more of both by the end of the year. My prediction comes that I think Acosta might get off to a hot start. He seems to be settling very well. But I think that eventually teams will figure them out. They'll figure out Acosta like they always have at DC. That's going to start to dry up. And then I think Flores is going to struggle in the beginning because the team's trying to figure out who they are, and then he'll pick it up. So I'll be curious to see. I have a 2-pointer here. I can get 1 point for one being right or 1 point for the other one being right.
It's a parlay. You only have to get both to cash. Yes. I like the first part of that, and I think that the second part will not be true. I hope it's true. I hope it's true, but I don't think it will be. I think that's a good one. I only did 2 of them, so you're gonna be. I forgot about these until right before the show started.
Fair enough.
We will not play a 3-man backline by the end of the year. That the experiment in trying to do it will run up against reality of results, and I think that there will be a desire to not want to finish in the bottom 2 or 3 of the East again. And regardless of where they want to be, I think that they will find that they don't have the personnel to play it due to either injury or just thinness, and then they're going to have to go to a more conventional 4-man backline.
See, we'll see. I'm curious to see what the pressure suddenly becomes if this team wants to go and go out and win games. That
just not being wooden spoony. That's I think that's the whole, not wanting his first season here to be engulfed in a fire of negativity. That's the only thing I can see that potentially does that. But that's a maybe.
Yep. And I have my next specific prediction. I say DC United will drop points from at least 7 games by giving up a goal in the 85th minute or later. Yeah. So to be clear, this is like dropping points is like you could be tied and then you lose, or you could be winning and then you tie. That's the idea of dropping points.
That is going to get wild with prop bets for MLS. That's what I'm feeling here.
Well,
that's cool.
I feel this is the team, like this came from Losada's fitness comments. I think this team, it's going to wane off towards the end of the year, but I think this team is at some point, they're going to figure out the system. They're going to play well, but they're still not going to have quite the fitness to hold on to games. And they're going to be kind of holding on for dear life. You're going to see a lot of defensive type substitutions. And then eventually I think they're going to drop some points. I'd be curious to go back and look at like what it was like under Ben Olsen and how many times that happened. I didn't do that.
Way too many. That'll be my non-data analytical answer for that. Just to wrap up on Kamara / Sorga. Apparently Kamara is injured, so that may be an indicator into why he's going to start this weekend. Not just because he is Estonian Messi who will score 7,000 goals, but also due to lack of healthy bodies. Jordi Reyna also injured.
Yeah, so Jordi Reyna injured. I think that was pretty much known. That was one of the ones known. I did find it interesting. He was like, oh, those were injuries that mostly we knew. And I'm like, you've had like 3 or 4 players go down with injuries. You had one player who was almost coming back in Bill Hamid, and then he got injured again. I'm not really sure I agree with your assessment there, Losada. I think some of that had to do the players that are getting injured. I'm automatically assuming those are the ones he's talking about when he talks about like being out of shape, no fitness or whatever. So,
also Chris Adoyatsum has not featured, is away from the team for some reason. It's not necessarily stated that it's injury or whatever else. He's just not playing. He's not with the team. Kevin Paredes injured. There's a pretty good chunk of players who are not available this first weekend. Just with small, I think it's very much likely that they ran into a buzzsaw of this preseason. That the man focused on fitness was like, we gonna run now. It's time to work. And some of these players were either not necessarily prepared for that from their off season or from a trunk. It was a long off season, so theoretically they should have had time to know that they've got to be ready, particularly players that have been playing for multiple years. They did not know that they were going to have this particular coach with this particular mindset about fitness, but we'll see how it develops. This could be him trying to sort of, once again, sort of lower expectations a little bit going into the season. One prediction that I can just make now off the top of my head: DC United through the first 3 games will not have enough points to qualify for the US Open Cup and will not participate.
Bold prediction there, my friend.
Very bold.
You're just guaranteeing. See, that's not fun.
Listen,
of course, that's something I could have made.
That's a -110 bet right there that I'm making sure to cash. I'm going to bet $1 to get 80 cents. I have a question here. If I'm going to do an MLS betting podcast, if you guys want to see it, let me know, and then I'll figure out how to make that happen.
All right, we've got some we got some show stuff to drop before we close. You have picked teams for the playoffs from both divisions.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, I didn't get enough time to get all that together, so we're not going to do that.
Watch Tried and True's 2-hour preseason podcast. I think they probably will have done that somewhere in there.
Yeah, watch all the other MLS previews. I'm struggling enough with my draft and trying to figure out who to select, and realizing that I focused in on DC and did not care. I'm looking at team rosters. I'm like, who the heck is this? I don't know who the heck this is. Literally giving the game away to the rest of my draft mates. You're welcome. They all listen to the show.
Well, there's so much private draft content in this episode. All of your league is going to be very excited with this show. So since I'm the king of promotion, let me handle all this business. RFKrefugees.com/tailgate.
Yes.
Make sure you're signed up for that. We will have our first virtual tailgate, Lot 8 tailgate on Saturday. Remains to be seen where all members of this show will physically be located for the show, but we will all be on this Zoom. The idea is we're going to get together. We're going to drink, beers or whatever it is that you want to drink, alcoholic or non. Talk about the season. Talk about the game. Just enjoy being in each other's company before the game, and then we'll have a very short 30-minute pregame show, which we will then indirectly transition into the official DC United pregame show on Comcast or wherever it's going to be this weekend. So make sure you're joined up for that. We will have, if you join up today, this week, you'll get the link for the Zoom, but you can join up right up until the start time, which is 6:30. Yes. So make sure you go to rfkrefugees.com/tailgate and sign up if you haven't yet. Tell your friends, bring all of the people that you would normally have brought to a tailgate, except for you get to drink beer in your house, I guess. I don't know the difference.
If you're vaccinated, have a safe watch party. Bring over some of your other vaccinated friends and pull up some beers, and we're going to talk the game. So, the first 30 minutes is just going to be, talking about the team, talking about everything, and then we'll have the official show. So definitely check that. You don't want to miss that.
You do not. And other thing that we've got to promote for you, we have a scarf for 2021, Ooh. Which is pretty cool. There it is right now. We got our test photos today. They're being produced and sent. A lot of you have already pre-ordered, and I really appreciate that. As soon as we get them, pre-orders will go out the door. And a lot of you also ordered stickers. So if you guys want those, it's great. Go to rfkrefugees.com. It's on the top and on the right-hand side of the webpage where you can pre-order. I believe it's $25, and that comes shipping included. So you'll get a scarf, rock it at the stadium. It will be very cool. You will be a very cool person if you are wearing a podcast scarf. I just want to let you know that. If you're listening and thinking, is that lame? The answer is not. It's not lame. It's very cool. It's very cool to have podcasts. So I of course am biased because A, it is my podcast, but B, also I do this for other podcasts. I am that guy. So we had a shirt that did really well. I was wearing that today. In fact, we're trying this out. If these are popular, we'll order more of them. I think this is a good product for us to sort of have available because I know people love scarves. They love scarf walls. They love to wear them. They love to take them to the stadiums. Anyway, check it out. Go to the website, order them if you want. And to those of you who already pre-ordered, some of you I see you in the chat. Thank you for doing that and for encouraging us to have more of these merch options. And we'll keep looking for other things you guys want. We'll anything you want, we'll make happen.
Yep. And also, I want to see these on the NBC Sports Washington podcast or show. I want to see those scarves. Posted
that's
up.
A good way to go.
I want to see them. If you can prove it, and you can also message me, and I'm heading up when things start to open up at Audi Field. I will buy you a beer if you can get yourself on TV holding up one of those scarves.
And speaking of scarf, I guess I shouldn't. I will not. This is next week. Well, we've got an exciting giveaway coming up next week that you're going to want to be excited about. That will involve our Patreon. So I don't want to spoil that one yet, but just like the game coming up, there's a lot of things to look forward to in the next 8 or 9 days.
We're on cable. We're finally on cable. I'm so excited about that.
That's good stuff.
Excited about that. I got my DVR all set up. It's not on. I just wanted to see it on the little guide on my Verizon Fios today. It's not there yet, but it will be
soon.
I'm very excited about it. All right, guys, I think that's going to do it for the show. Thank you all so much for listening. Patreon.com/RFK Twitter.com, RFK RFKrefugees.com. Sign up for the tailgate. Do all the things. You guys are awesome. I am so excited. We are 6 days away. I think I got that timing right. 6 days away from the season. It's coming up fast and furious. That was, I think, going to be the title of the show in some capacity. So thank you all so much for listening. We will catch you guys on Thursday. Vamos.